My name is Grace, and for years, I proudly called him my husband. I cooked his meals. I washed his clothes. I prayed for him every night before I slept. I believed I was loved. But the truth hit me on a quiet evening, in a way that broke my heart into pieces. And when I finally understood it, I realized something painful. I was never his wife. I was only being used. Before I continue, please take a moment to subscribe to this channel, like this video, and turn on your notification bell so you never miss stories like this. Real stories that touch the heart and open the eyes. Also, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I want to know I'm not alone here. Now listen carefully, because what I am about to tell you still makes my hands shake. The most shocking moment of my life did not happen during an argument. It did not happen when he shouted at me. It did not even happen when I cried myself to sleep. It happened when I opened a small brown envelope that was never meant for me to see. Inside that envelope was a truth so heavy, it made my chest hurt. A truth that whispered, "Grace, you were never his partner. Only his plan." I remember standing there, frozen, the room spinning, my heart beating so loud I could hear it in my ears. My fingers trembled as I read the words again and again, hoping I was wrong. But I wasn't. And right at that moment, footsteps echoed behind me. I turned slowly, and he was standing in the doorway, staring at me. That was the moment everything changed. Let me take you back to the beginning, before my life fell apart. I met him many years ago, on a normal afternoon that felt like fate. He was calm, well-spoken, and always smiling. He listened when I talked. He asked about my dreams. He made me feel seen. When he said, "You're different from other women," my heart melted. We married quietly. No big wedding. No loud celebration. He said he preferred peace and privacy. I agreed, because love sometimes makes you blind. From the outside, our marriage looked simple but stable. People said, "Grace is lucky. Her husband is quiet and responsible." But inside the house, things were different. He never liked to talk about money. He avoided questions about our future. Whenever I asked, "What are our plans?" he would smile and say, "Trust me." And I did. I trusted him when he asked me to take loans in my name. I trusted him when he said the businesses had to be registered under me, for convenience. I trusted him when he told me not to ask too many questions. Sometimes, late at night, I would feel uneasy. I would stare at the ceiling and think, why do I feel like something is missing? But every morning, I would wake up and push that feeling away. Because wives are taught to endure. Wives are taught to believe. Wives are taught to stay. Years passed. I worked harder. I sacrificed more. I gave up job opportunities, friendships, even my savings, because he said we were building something together. But slowly, his behavior changed. He became distant, cold, always on his phone, always leaving the house with excuses. When I asked, "Is everything okay?" he would reply sharply, "Stop overthinking." And I would apologize, even when I did nothing wrong. Then came the day that shattered everything. He left the house in a hurry that morning. He forgot his briefcase. That alone was strange, because he never forgot anything. The phone rang while I was cleaning the living room. A courier asked for him by name. "There's a document that must be signed today," the voice said. I felt nervous, but I told the man to leave it at the gate. When I opened the envelope later, I told myself I would not read it. I promised myself I would respect his privacy. But my hands opened it anyway. And there it was. A document stating that the house we lived in, the business I thought we owned together, even the land I believed was for our future, none of it was for me. Worse still, there was another name on the papers. Another woman. Not as a business partner. Not as a witness. But as his legal wife. My knees gave way. I sat on the floor, gasping for air. I whispered, "No, this can't be true." I read it again. And again. The date showed he was already married before he ever met me. 4 years, I called him my husband. But on paper, I was nothing. At that moment, the door opened. He walked in and stopped when he saw me holding the envelope. His face changed. And before he could speak, I looked up at him and asked, in a broken voice, "Who am I to you?" He opened his mouth to answer. And that answer would change everything forever. But what he said next was far worse than silence. To be continued. He did not answer me immediately. When I asked, "Who am I to you?" he just stood there, staring at the envelope in my hands like it was a weapon pointed at his chest. The room was quiet, but my heart was screaming. Finally, he sighed. Not with fear. Not with shame. With annoyance. "Grace," he said slowly, rubbing his forehead, "you weren't supposed to see that." Those words hurt more than a slap. I stood up, my legs weak, my voice shaking. "You weren't supposed to do this to me," I replied. "Tell me the truth. Are you married to another woman?" He looked away. That silence was my answer. I felt something break inside me. I pressed the papers against his chest and shouted, "I am asking you, after all these years, after everything I gave you, was I ever your wife?" He took the papers from my hand and placed them calmly on the table. Then he said the words that changed how I saw him forever. "You're making this bigger than it needs to be." Bigger. I laughed, a dry, painful laugh that scared even me. Bigger. I built my life around you. I trusted you with my name, my money, my future. And you're saying this is nothing. He crossed his arms. His voice became cold. "You knew I wasn't perfect." That was when I realized something terrifying. He was not sorry. Let me explain something. When a person is truly guilty, they beg. They explain. They panic. But this man did none of that. Instead, he sat down like a teacher about to correct a foolish child. "Listen," he said. "I needed stability. I needed someone reliable. You gave me that." I stared at him, confused. "So, what was I to you?" He looked me straight in the eyes and said, "You were helpful. Helpful. Not loved. Not cherished. Helpful." My ears rang. I felt dizzy. "And the woman on the papers?" I asked quietly. "That's my real wife," he replied. "We had issues. I needed space." Space. I slammed my hand on the table. "So you used me as space?" He raised his voice for the first time. "Watch your tone." That was the moment fear turned into anger. "For years I defended you," I said. "When people asked why we didn't have children, I defended you. When my family warned me, I defended you. I took loans for you. I signed documents for you. I gave up my life for you." He stood up suddenly. "And I provided a roof over your head." I pointed around the room. "This roof. The one I paid for. The one in my name." His eyes narrowed. That was when he knew. I was starting to understand everything. That night, I did not sleep. I sat on the edge of the bed while he slept peacefully beside me, like nothing had happened. I watched his chest rise and fall, and I wondered how a human heart could be so empty. My mind replayed every moment from the past. Every time he refused to introduce me properly. Every time he avoided family gatherings. Every time he said, "Let's keep our lives simple." It was never about simplicity. It was about control. The next morning, I made a decision. I would stop crying. I would stop begging. I would start observing. I needed to know how deep his lies went. Over the next few days, I paid attention. I noticed how he guarded his phone. How he stepped outside to take calls. How he suddenly became polite. Too polite. One afternoon, while he was in the shower, his phone buzzed. I told myself I wouldn't check it. But my hands moved on their own. The message was short. "When are you coming home? The children miss you." Children. My breath caught. I scrolled up. Photos appeared. Family photos. A woman smiling. 2 kids. A life he never shared with me. Tears streamed down my face as I whispered, "So this is where you go every time you say you're traveling?" That night, when he came back, I asked calmly, "Do you have children?" He froze. Then he laughed nervously. "Who told you that?" I placed the phone on the table. His face went pale. "You went through my phone?" he asked angrily. I looked at him with eyes that had already seen too much. "You went through my life." Silence filled the room. Finally, he spoke. "Yes," he said. "I have children." I nodded slowly. "And they know about me?" He hesitated. "No." That answer felt like a knife. "So I'm a secret," I said. "You're not a secret," he replied quickly. "You're just separate." Separate. I realized then that to him, I was not a wife. I was a tool. The following week, something unexpected happened. I received a call from an unknown number. "Hello," a woman's voice said gently. "Is this Grace?" My heart stopped. "Yes," I replied carefully. "This may sound strange," she continued, "but I think we need to talk. About the man you call your husband." The phone slipped from my hand. I picked it up again, my voice barely audible. "Who are you?" There was a pause. Then she said the words I was not ready to hear. "I am his wife. The real one." And what she was about to tell me was far worse than anything I had discovered so far. Because she did not call to apologize. She called to warn me. For a long moment after she said, "I am his wife," I could not speak. My throat felt tight. My hands were cold. I leaned against the wall because my legs could no longer hold me. I don't understand," I finally whispered. Her voice was calm, almost tired. "I know this is shocking. Please, sit down. What I'm about to tell you will be hard to hear." I sat on the edge of the chair, my heart pounding like it wanted to escape my chest. She continued, "I found your number in some old documents. I have known about you for a while now." Those words felt unreal. You knew about me?" I asked. "Yes," she said softly. "And that's why I'm calling. Because you deserve the truth. I wish someone had warned me earlier too." I closed my eyes. Tears slid down my cheeks, but I didn't bother wiping them away. "Then tell me," I said. "Tell me everything." She took a deep breath. "He has done this before," she said. My eyes flew open. "Before?" "Yes. You are not the first woman he married secretly. And sadly, you may not be the last." I felt sick. She explained how she met him years before I ever did. He had been charming, caring, and patient. Just like he was with me. He promised stability. He promised a future. "He told me I was his only wife," she said. I believed him. Until I found out there were others. Others. "How many?" I asked, my voice shaking. "I don't know the exact number," she admitted. "But I know of at least 2 before you." My chest hurt. I pressed my hand against it, trying to breathe. "So what am I to him?" I asked. She was silent for a moment. Then she answered slowly, choosing her words carefully. "To him, you are a resource." That word again. Resource. Just like, helpful. She went on. "He looks for women who are kind, hardworking, and trusting. Women who will sacrifice without asking too many questions. Women who have something. Money, property, connections, or stability." I thought about my job. My savings. The loans in my name. Suddenly, everything made sense. "He used me to build businesses," I whispered. "Yes," she replied. "And once those businesses grow, he shifts them away from the woman who helped him build them." My stomach twisted. "That house you're in," she added carefully. Please tell me it is still in your name. I hesitated. Some of it is. Some documents were changed recently. There was a sharp intake of breath on the other end. Then he is already preparing his exit. When the call ended, I sat in silence for a long time. The walls of the house suddenly felt strange, like they did not belong to me anymore. Every chair, every curtain, every photo on the wall felt like part of a lie. That evening, when he came home, I studied him like a stranger. He smiled and asked, "What did you cook?" I looked at him and wondered how someone could pretend so well. "I'm not hungry," I replied. He shrugged and sat down. "You've been acting strange lately." I laughed bitterly. Strange? After discovering I'm married to a married man. He frowned. "I told you, you're making things complicated." I leaned forward. "How many women have you done this to?" His jaw tightened. "Who told you that?" "So it's true," I said quietly. He stood up. "Stop listening to gossip." "Your wife is not gossip," I snapped. The moment I said that, his face darkened. "You spoke to her?" he asked. "Yes," I replied. "She warned me." For the first time, fear flashed across his face. "What did she tell you?" he demanded. I stood up too, my voice steady. "That you use women like tools. That you take everything and leave nothing." He laughed, but it sounded forced. "You're exaggerating." I walked closer to him. "Then explain the loans in my name. Explain the properties you moved without my consent. Explain why you lied to me for years." He raised his voice. "Because you allowed it." Those words hit me hard. "I allowed it." I repeated. "Yes," he shouted. "You signed the papers. You trusted me. That's not my fault." I stared at him in disbelief. So this was his defense. Blame me. That night, something inside me changed. I stopped seeing him as my husband. I stopped seeing him as my partner. I started seeing him as a man who was dangerous. The next morning, I made another decision. I would protect myself. I went through every file in the house. Every document. Every receipt. Every contract. And the more I read, the clearer it became. Businesses had been transferred. Accounts had been emptied. Loans had been stacked under my name alone. I was drowning in debt, while he was building a life somewhere else. As I sat on the floor, surrounded by papers, my phone rang again. It was the same woman. "I need you to be careful," she said urgently. "When he realizes you know too much, he becomes unpredictable." "What do you mean?" I asked. "He doesn't like women who fight back," she replied. "And when they do, he makes sure they regret it." My hands shook. "Grace," she continued, "you are standing at a dangerous point. But you are not powerless." I swallowed hard. "Then tell me what to do." She paused. "First," she said, "you must pretend nothing has changed." I looked toward the bedroom where he was sleeping. "Pretend? I don't know if I can," I whispered. "You must," she insisted. "Because the moment he suspects you are planning something, he will strike first." Before I could respond, the call ended. At that exact moment, I heard his voice behind me. "Who are you talking to?" I turned slowly. He was standing in the doorway, watching me closely. And in his eyes, I saw something that chilled my blood. Suspicion. Because he was beginning to realize I was no longer the woman he could control. When I turned and saw him standing in the doorway, my heart skipped. For a second, I thought he had heard everything. My mind raced. What did he hear? How much does he know? I forced myself to breathe normally and replied in a calm voice, "Just a wrong number." He didn't answer immediately. He stepped closer, his eyes searching my face like he was trying to read my thoughts. "A wrong number," he repeated slowly. "Yes," I said. "Someone asking for another person." He nodded, but I could tell he didn't believe me. Not fully. That night, he was unusually quiet. He ate his food without complaining. He didn't shout. He didn't accuse. And somehow, that silence scared me more than his anger ever did. Because when a man like him goes quiet, it means he is thinking. Over the next few days, I followed the advice I was given. I pretended. I smiled when he talked. I cooked his meals. I laughed at his jokes. But inside I was planning. I began waking up earlier than usual, pretending I was just trying to be more productive. In reality, I was copying documents. I took pictures of contracts. I saved messages. I wrote down dates, names, and amounts. Every lie now had a record. One morning, while we were having breakfast, he said something that made my stomach tighten. "You know," he said casually, "we might need to move soon." I froze. Move? Why? He shrugged. Fresh start. New environment. I forced a smile. Sounds nice. But inside, panic rose. Move meant escape. Move meant he was preparing to disappear. That same afternoon, I went to the bank alone. I sat across from the officer, my hands folded tightly. "I need a full statement of all accounts linked to my name," I said. The officer typed for a long time. Then his expression changed. "Madam," he said carefully, "there are several outstanding loans here." I nodded slowly. "I know." He hesitated. "The total amount is very high." My chest felt heavy, but I kept my voice steady. "Can you print everything?" When he handed me the papers, my hands trembled. The debt was more than I earned in years. And every loan had my signature. I walked out of the bank feeling numb. That evening, I confronted him carefully. "I went to the bank today," I said gently. His fork paused mid-air. "Why?" "I wanted to understand our finances better," I replied. He laughed lightly. "I told you not to worry about that." "I know," I said. "But I saw the loans." His eyes darkened. And they're all in my name," I continued. He slammed his fork down. "Because that's how we agreed." I kept my voice calm. "I don't remember agreeing to carry everything alone." He leaned forward, his voice low. "Don't start this again, Grace." I swallowed. "What happens if you leave?" He stared at me. "Why would I leave?" I held his gaze. "Just answer." There was a long pause. Then he said, "You'll manage." That was the answer. He had already planned it. That night, I couldn't sleep. I remembered every warning my mother had ever given me. Every friend who said, "Something about him feels off." I ignored them all. Around 2 a.m., I heard him speaking softly on the phone in the other room. "I told you, I'm handling it," he whispered. "She won't be a problem." My blood ran cold. "She's calm now," he continued. "I'll move things soon." I pressed my hand against my mouth to stop myself from crying. So I was a problem. Something to be handled. The next day, I made another move. I met the woman again. We chose a quiet place far from the house. She looked older than I expected. Tired. Her eyes held the same pain I felt. "You look just like I did years ago," she said softly. I nodded. "I feel trapped." She reached across the table and held my hand. "That's how he wants you to feel." She explained how she tried to confront him in the past. "He threatened me," she said. "Not with words, but with actions. My accounts were frozen. My name was dragged through lies." My heart pounded. "How did you survive?" "I stayed silent," she replied, "until I gathered enough proof." Proof. That word stayed with me. Before we parted, she looked me straight in the eyes. "Whatever you do, do not confront him again without protection." I promised her I wouldn't. When I returned home that evening, the house felt different. Some drawers were open. Some files were missing. My heart raced. I walked into the bedroom and saw the cabinet where I kept important documents. Half empty. He was already home. "You're back early," he said from the couch. I forced a smile. "So are you." He stood up and walked toward me. I cleaned up some old papers. Too much clutter. I nodded slowly. "That's thoughtful." But inside, fear tightened its grip. He was erasing evidence. That night, as he slept, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling. I realized something then. This was no longer just about lies or betrayal. This was about survival. And if I made one wrong move, I could lose everything. As dawn approached, I made a silent promise to myself. I would not be another woman he destroyed. But I had no idea that my next discovery would put me in even greater danger. Because the truth I was about to uncover was not just about money. It was about crime. I did not confront him. Not that morning. Not that week. I swallowed my fear and wore my calm like a mask. Because now, I knew something very important. If I showed panic, he would move faster. If I showed anger, he would destroy evidence. If I showed strength too early, he would crush me. So I became quiet. Dangerously quiet. A few days after I noticed the missing files, he became unusually generous. He bought food I liked. He asked how my day went. He even apologized for being stressed lately. That was when I knew something was wrong. Men like him do not change overnight. They distract. One evening, as we sat watching television, he suddenly said, "I think we should put some things in your name officially." I turned to him slowly. "Why?" He smiled. "So you feel secure." I forced a laugh. "After all these years?" "Yes," he replied. "I've realized I haven't been fair." My stomach twisted. This was not kindness. This was strategy. The next day, he asked me to follow him to a small office across town. "It's just paperwork," he said casually. "Nothing serious." The building looked ordinary, but something about it felt off. Inside, a man greeted him warmly. "Long time," the man said, shaking his hand. They spoke like old friends. Too old. They discussed documents in low voices, switching between words I did not fully understand. Company names I had never heard before, properties I did not recognize. Then the man slid a file toward me. "Just sign here," he said. I looked at the papers. They were not what he had promised. These were not documents putting anything in my favor. These were documents transferring liability. I felt my heart pound, but I kept my face calm. "I'd like to read everything carefully," I said. The man frowned. My so-called husband smiled tightly. "Of course," he said. "Take your time." I pretended to read slowly while my mind raced. These papers would make me responsible for something illegal. I didn't know exactly what yet, but I felt it. "I'll need my lawyer to review this," I said finally. The room went silent. The man behind the desk leaned back. "A lawyer?" "Yes," I replied calmly. "That's normal, isn't it?" My husband's jaw tightened. "We don't need to complicate this." "I won't sign without understanding," I said. We left shortly after. The moment we got into the car, he slammed his hand on the steering wheel. "You embarrassed me," he snapped. "I protected myself," I replied quietly. He laughed bitterly. "You're becoming difficult." I looked straight ahead. "I'm becoming careful." He said nothing for the rest of the drive. But I could feel his anger filling the car like smoke. That night, I barely slept. The next morning, I went somewhere I never thought I would. I went to a legal aid office. I sat across from a woman who listened without interrupting as I told her everything. From the secret marriage to the loans, the missing files, the strange documents. When I finished, she leaned back slowly. "Grace," she said carefully, "some of what you're describing goes beyond civil fraud." My breath caught. "What do you mean?" It sounds like financial crimes, she replied. Possibly money laundering. Possibly identity misuse. My hands shook. And my name is on those papers. She nodded. That puts you at serious risk. I swallowed hard. What should I do? Her answer scared me. You need evidence, she said. And you need to prepare for the possibility that he may try to frame you. Frame me. That word echoed in my head. When I returned home that evening, the house felt tense. He was pacing. You went out today, he said. Yes, I replied. I had errands. Where? He asked sharply. I met his eyes. Does it matter? He stopped pacing. Everything matters. I smiled slightly. Then maybe you should start telling the truth. His face hardened. You think you're smarter than me now? He asked. No, I said softly. I think I've been blind. He stepped closer. Careful. I am, I replied. That night, he locked his phone with a new password. That night, I noticed new security cameras installed outside the house. That night, I understood something chilling. He was watching me. 2 days later, I received another call from his real wife. You need to leave that house, she said urgently. Why? I asked. He's done this before, she said. When women start asking questions, accidents happen. My heart dropped. Accidents. Cars break down. Businesses collapse. People get blamed. I looked around the room, suddenly feeling trapped. I don't have proof yet, I said. You may not get the chance, she replied. That night, I overheard him speaking again on the phone. She's resisting, he said quietly. Yes. I know. No, not yet. Soon. My blood ran cold. Soon. I went into the bathroom, locked the door, and stared at myself in the mirror. The woman looking back at me looked tired, older. But her eyes were awake now. I whispered to my reflection, you have to survive this. Because one thing was clear. He was no longer just lying to protect himself. He was preparing to sacrifice me. And the worst part? I had just found a hidden folder on his laptop that night, filled with transactions, fake names, and transfers that could destroy him, or get me arrested if he moved first. I closed the laptop slowly, my heart racing, because now I understood the truth completely. For years, I called him my husband. But in his plan, I was never meant to walk away alive. I did not sleep that night. Every sound in the house felt louder than usual. The ticking clock. The hum of the refrigerator. Even my own breathing sounded like it could give me away. I lay still beside him, pretending to be asleep, while my mind replayed everything I had seen on that laptop. The fake names. The hidden accounts. The transfers moving money in circles like shadows. And worst of all, my name appearing again and again. Not as a victim, but as the final holder. If anything went wrong, everything would point to me. I understood it now. This was never just about using me for money. I was his exit plan. At exactly 3:17 a.m., he got out of bed. Slowly, carefully. I kept my eyes closed. I heard the bedroom door open, then close softly. Footsteps moved toward the study. My heart pounded so hard I thought it would wake him. After a few minutes, curiosity became stronger than fear. I slipped out of bed, silent as I could, and followed. The study door was slightly open. Inside, he was on the phone again. Yes, he whispered. Everything is almost set. Pause. No, she suspects, but she doesn't know how deep it goes. Pause. She trusts the system. That's enough. My stomach twisted. Another pause. Once the transfer is complete, it won't matter anymore. My hands shook. Of course, he added calmly. Her name is already on everything. I backed away quietly, my legs weak. Her name. My name. The next morning, I acted normal. I made breakfast. I asked about his day. I smiled when he smiled. Inside, I was screaming. Later that day, I went to work but could not focus. Every email felt pointless. Every conversation felt fake. At lunch, my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. You need to check your email. Now. My heart dropped. I opened my inbox. There it was. A notification from a government agency. Subject line: Notice of investigation. My hands trembled as I opened it. The words blurred, but I caught enough. Suspicious transactions. Financial irregularities. My name listed as a key contact. I felt dizzy. They were already looking at me. I rushed to the bathroom and locked myself in a stall, trying not to cry. So this was his move. While I was still breathing, he had already started turning me into the criminal. That evening, when I got home, he was waiting. You look tired, he said calmly. I had a long day, I replied. He studied my face. Anything interesting happen? I shook my head. Nothing unusual. He nodded, satisfied. Then he said something that made my blood freeze. We should travel soon, he said casually. Just you and me. Clear your head. Travel. Disappear. My heart pounded. Where? He smiled. I'll surprise you. That night, I packed a small bag. Not for a trip with him. For escape. The following morning, I went to see the lawyer again. When I showed her the email, her face turned serious. This is bad, she said. But it also means something else. What? I asked. He's moving faster than expected, she replied. Which means he's afraid. Afraid. That word gave me a small amount of strength. You need to secure the evidence immediately, she continued. And you need to prepare for the possibility that he may accuse you of things you didn't do. I nodded. He already has. She leaned closer. Do you have anyone you trust? I hesitated. One person. Good, she said. Because you may need somewhere safe very soon. That night, I tried to copy the files from his laptop. But when I opened it, the folder was gone. My heart stopped. I searched everywhere. Nothing. Then I noticed something else. The laptop had been wiped. Completely reset. I felt sick. He had beaten me to it. As I stood there frozen, my phone buzzed. A message from him. Come to the living room. I walked out slowly. He was sitting on the couch, calm, composed, holding his phone. Sit, he said. I sat. He leaned forward and said quietly, We need to talk about your little investigations. My blood ran cold. How did you? I told you, he interrupted. Everything matters. He smiled faintly. You've been very curious lately. I swallowed hard. I'm just trying to understand my life. He nodded. Then let me help you understand something. He held up his phone and turned the screen toward me. On it were copies of my emails, my bank visits, even messages with the lawyer. I know everything, he said calmly. I felt trapped. Then he added the words that made my heart stop. And tomorrow morning, the authorities are coming. I stared at him, unable to speak. They're coming for you, he continued softly. Unless you do exactly what I say. My mouth felt dry. What do you want? He leaned back, smiling. A signature, he said. And your silence. Because at that moment, I understood something terrifying. He had planned my downfall perfectly. And I was running out of time. I could not breathe. The words, the authorities are coming, echoed in my head like a drum that would not stop beating. My mouth opened, but no sound came out. I stared at him, sitting there calmly, like he had just told me the weather would change tomorrow. They're coming for you, he repeated softly, as if explaining something simple to a child. Unless you cooperate. My hands trembled. You set me up. He tilted his head. No. I prepared you. Prepared me. For years, he continued, I put things in your name because you were dependable. You signed without questions. You trusted me. That trust made everything easy. Tears filled my eyes. I trusted you because I thought you were my husband. He sighed, like he was tired of hearing the same excuse. You were convenient. That word again. Convenient. So what do you want? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. He slid a folder across the table. Sign these, he said. They finalize everything. Once it's done, you'll take responsibility. I'll make sure things don't get too uncomfortable for you. I opened the folder with shaking hands. The papers were worse than I imagined. They didn't just accept responsibility. They admitted guilt. If I signed, I would be confessing to crimes I did not commit. I can't sign this, I said. He smiled slowly. You can. I looked up. No. His smile disappeared. You don't have a choice, he said coldly. Tomorrow morning, officers will knock on that door. If you haven't signed by then, your life changes forever. I felt sick. You would really do this to me? He leaned forward. I already am. That night, he slept peacefully. I did not. I sat on the floor of the bedroom, my back against the wall, staring at the papers. Every option felt like a dead end. If I signed, I would go to prison. If I didn't, I would still go to prison, only faster. At around 1 a.m., my phone buzzed quietly. A message from his real wife. Are you safe? My fingers shook as I typed back. No. Seconds later, my phone rang. Listen to me carefully, she whispered. Is he with you? He's asleep, I replied. Good, she said. Then you need to leave. Now. I can't, I whispered. He has everything. Proof. Documents. They're already coming for me. There was silence on the line. Then she said something that stunned me. Not everything, she said. He made a mistake once. And that mistake is the only reason I survived. My heart raced. What mistake? He trusted me too much, she replied. Just once. She told me to go to the guest room. To check behind the old bookshelf. There's a loose panel, she said. He hides things there when he's nervous. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped the phone. How do you know? I whispered. Because that's where he hid my evidence, she replied. I moved slowly through the house, every step careful, every sound terrifying. The guest room smelled unused. Dusty. Forgotten. I pushed the bookshelf. Nothing. I tried again, harder. There was a soft click. My breath caught. Behind it was a small opening. Inside, a flash drive. And a thin envelope. My heart pounded as I plugged the drive into my laptop. What I saw made my stomach turn. Videos. Voice recordings. Messages. Him instructing others how to move money. Him admitting he uses women as shields. Him laughing about how they never see it coming. And then, a recording of him saying my name. She's perfect, his voice said. She'll take the fall cleanly. I covered my mouth to stop myself from screaming. The envelope contained something even worse. Fake documents prepared in advance. With dates already filled in. Tomorrow's date. This was not a backup plan. This was the plan. I copied everything to my phone and cloud storage. As I was finishing, I heard a noise behind me. Footsteps. My heart leaped into my throat. Grace, his voice called out softly. I froze. I know you're awake, he said. Come out. I shut the laptop quietly and slipped the flash drive into my pocket. He stood in the hallway, blocking the exit. You should be sleeping, he said. I forced myself to sound calm. I couldn't. He stepped closer. Nervous. A little, I replied. He smiled. You don't need to be. Just sign the papers tomorrow, and this all goes away. I looked at him and realized something important. He thought he had already won. I nodded slowly. Okay, I said. I'll sign. His smile widened. That's the smart choice, he said. He turned and went back to the bedroom. I stood there, shaking, tears streaming down my face, but my eyes were clear now. Because for the first time since I met him, I had proof. At dawn, there was a knock on the door. My heart slammed against my ribs. He got up calmly, adjusted his shirt, and looked back at me. Remember, he whispered. Say nothing. I clutched the flash drive in my pocket. The knock came again. Louder. I took a deep breath. Because as the door began to open, I realized this was no longer about saving myself. This was about exposing him. And what was about to happen next would change all of our lives forever. The knock on the door echoed through the house like a gunshot. My whole body stiffened. He walked ahead of me, calm and confident, like a man opening the door to welcome guests. I stayed a few steps behind him, my hand pressed tightly against my pocket where the flash drive rested. It felt heavier than metal. It felt like my life. He opened the door. 2 officers stood outside. Serious faces. Neutral eyes. Good morning, one of them said. We're looking for Grace. My heart dropped. That's my wife, he replied smoothly. Is there a problem? I stepped forward slowly. I'm Grace. The officers looked at me carefully. Ma'am, the taller one said, we need you to come with us. There are some questions regarding financial transactions connected to your name. I glanced at him. He did not look at me. Not once. He simply said, I'll get her a jacket. That was when fear turned into clarity. This was it. At the station, I sat alone in a cold room. A metal table. 2 chairs. Bright lights that made everything feel unreal. The officer placed a file in front of me. Do you recognize these documents? He asked. I looked down. My name. My signature. Accounts I had never opened on my own. Yes, I said quietly. I recognize them. Did you authorize these transactions? I took a breath. This was the moment he thought I would break. No, I said. The officer raised an eyebrow. Then how do you explain your signature? I reached into my pocket slowly. I can explain everything, I said. But before I do, you need to see this. I placed the flash drive on the table. The room went quiet. Hours passed. The officers came and went. Voices whispered behind glass. Faces changed. At one point, a different officer entered the room. Ma'am, she said carefully, the information you provided is serious. I nodded. I know. It suggests long-term fraud, she continued, and deliberate framing. My hands shook. I've been saying that for months. She looked at me gently. Why didn't you come sooner? I swallowed hard. Because I was married to the man who did it. Her expression softened. While I sat there, he was at home. Waiting. Confident. He believed I would be charged. He believed I would be silent. He believed I would disappear quietly. He was wrong. That evening, I was released. Temporarily. Do not leave town, the officer warned. And do not contact the suspect. The suspect. Not my husband. I stepped outside the station, the cool air hitting my face. I felt dizzy. Free, but not safe. My phone buzzed immediately. A message from him. Where are you? Then another. Answer me. Then another. You promised you would sign. I turned my phone off. When I returned to the house later that night, the door was open. My heart raced. Inside, everything was chaos. Drawers pulled out. Cushions torn open. Papers scattered everywhere. He had been looking for the flash drive. I walked into the living room slowly. He was there. Sitting. Waiting. His calm was gone. "Where did you put it?" he asked quietly. I said nothing. He stood up. "You think you're clever?" Still nothing. He stepped closer. "You think those officers are on your side?" I met his eyes. "I know they're not on yours." His face twisted with anger. "You've ruined everything." "No," I replied. "You did." He laughed bitterly. "You have no idea who you're dealing with." "I do now," I said. He leaned in close. "You won't survive this." That was not a threat. It was a promise. That night, I did not sleep in the house. I went somewhere safe. But even there, fear followed me. Because the next morning, my phone exploded with messages. Unknown numbers. Threats. Warnings. And one message that froze my blood. "You should have stayed quiet." I looked at the screen, my hands shaking. Because now, the truth was out. And when men like him lose control, they don't give up. They retaliate. And I was about to learn just how far he was willing to go. I woke up that morning with fear sitting on my chest like a heavy stone. For a moment, I forgot where I was. Then everything rushed back. The station, the flash drive, his eyes full of rage, the message that said you should have stayed quiet. I sat up slowly and checked my phone. Dozens of missed calls. Unknown numbers. Voicemails I was too afraid to open. My hands shook as I scrolled. Then I saw one message that made my heart stop. "We know where you are." I dropped the phone. I did not leave the room that morning. Every sound outside made me jump. A car passing. Footsteps in the hallway. A door closing somewhere far away. Around noon, my phone rang again. This time, it was an official number. "Grace," a calm voice said. "This is the investigator handling your case. We need to speak with you immediately." My heart raced. "Did something happen?" "Yes," he replied. "And you need to be very careful." We met in a quiet office away from the station. The investigator looked tired. Older than before. "He has lawyers now," he said. "Very good ones." I nodded slowly. "I expected that." "They are claiming you acted alone," he continued. "That you planned everything and used him as cover." I felt dizzy. "That's a lie." "We know," he said. "But lies like this are dangerous when backed by money." He slid a file toward me. Inside were statements. Witnesses. People I had never met. Claiming I was the mastermind. "He's paying them," I whispered. "Yes," the investigator replied. "And there's more." He lowered his voice. "Some evidence you gave us is missing." My breath caught. "Missing?" "Yes," he said. "Files from the flash drive. Not all, but some of the most damaging ones." I stared at him in shock. "That's impossible. I copied everything." He met my eyes. "Then someone else has access." My blood ran cold. There was only one person who could have done that. That evening, I received a call from his real wife. "They came to my house," she said, her voice shaking. "Asking questions. Showing pictures of you." My chest tightened. "Are you safe?" "For now," she replied. "But he's angry. I've never seen him like this." Neither had I. She hesitated before speaking again. "Grace, he's planning something bigger." "What do you mean?" "He doesn't just want to escape," she said. "He wants to destroy you completely." The next morning, the news broke. My face was on television. My name across the screen. Words like fraud and scam flashing in bold letters. They called me a businesswoman involved in illegal activities. They did not call him my husband. They did not call him a suspect. They called him a victim. I felt sick. My phone buzzed non-stop. Messages from friends, from family, from people who no longer trusted me. One message stood out. From my mother. Is this true? I broke down and cried. He had taken everything. My name. My dignity. My voice. That afternoon, the investigator called again. We found something, he said. But it changes things. How? I asked. He's preparing to leave the country, he replied. Possibly tonight. My heart pounded. You have to stop him. We're trying, he said. But we need one more thing. What? I asked. Your testimony, he said. In public. I froze. Public. Yes, he continued. If you speak now, clearly, openly, it will slow him down. It will expose the pattern. I swallowed hard. And if I don't? He paused. Then he disappears, he said. And you carry his crimes forever. That night, I stood in front of a mirror. I barely recognized the woman staring back. She looked scared. But she also looked awake. I picked up my phone and opened the camera. My finger hovered over the record button. If I spoke, I would make myself a target. If I stayed silent, I would lose everything. Before I could decide, my phone buzzed. A final message from him. You have one last chance. Delete everything and stay quiet. Or you will regret it. I stared at the screen, my heart pounding. Because now, the next move was mine. And whatever I chose to do next would decide who survived this war. I stared at the message on my phone for a long time. You have one last chance. Delete everything and stay quiet. Or you will regret it. 4 years, those kinds of words would have broken me. 4 years, fear would have won. But something had changed. I lowered the phone and looked at my reflection in the mirror. I was shaking. Yes. I was afraid. Yes. But I was no longer blind. And that made all the difference. I pressed record. My voice trembled at first, but I did not stop. My name is Grace, I said. For years, I believed I was married to the man I trusted with my life. Today, I am here to tell the truth, because silence almost destroyed me. I spoke slowly, clearly, using simple words. I talked about the secret marriage, the loans in my name, the businesses I helped build but never owned, the documents meant to frame me, the threats. I showed proof where I could, without revealing sensitive details that could put others in danger. I stayed quiet because I was scared, I said, tears streaming down my face. But staying quiet only gave him power. And I refused to protect a lie that almost killed me. I ended the video with one sentence. If you are watching this and you feel trapped like I did, please know this: you are not weak. You were just deceived. Then I posted it. Within hours, everything changed. The video spread faster than I imagined. People shared it, commented, asked questions. Other women came forward. Stories that sounded just like mine. Different names. Same pattern. That was his mistake. He thought I was alone. I wasn't. The next morning, the investigator called me. His voice sounded different this time. Grace, he said. He's been stopped. My heart jumped. Stopped. He was intercepted at the airport, he continued. Too many eyes were on him. Too much evidence surfaced overnight. I sank into a chair, my body shaking. He's in custody, the investigator said. And this time, he's not walking away. Tears poured down my face. Not tears of pain. Tears of release. Days later, I was officially cleared. The investigation reports were updated. The false accusations against me were withdrawn. My name was removed from the charges. It did not happen instantly. It was not easy. But the truth finally had room to breathe. When I walked out of the building that day, the sun felt different on my skin. Lighter. I did not return to that house. I started over. Slowly. Carefully. With help. Some days were hard. Some nights I still woke up afraid. But every morning, I reminded myself of one truth. I survived. For years, I called him my husband. But I was never his partner. I was his shield. His cover. His plan. And the moment I stopped protecting his lies, everything collapsed. If you're watching this story right now and it touched you in any way, please pause for a second. Like this video so more people can hear stories like this. Subscribe to the channel for more powerful, emotional stories that open eyes and save lives. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss what comes next. And please, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. Most importantly, if you see yourself in this story, know this. Being